Hi, welcome to today's course of the Hackerpraktikum. Before we start with the talk, I'd like to make a quick announcement. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Carsten Tellmann. I'm a former IT security student and I'm now working for GData, a local antivirus company. And in addition to this course, we offer an informal evening event, which means we will have some food and some drinks and hopefully nice discussions with the organizers of this course and the speaker, of course. And I'd like to invite all of you. If you want to, you can join us there. There are some of the details. If you want to see or if you want to know more, you can go to our website, or since last week we have a direct link from the course website from the university to this site. If you have any further questions to this event, don't hesitate to come to me after the talk and I can give you a little more detail about this. So, I think we can start.
Yeah.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hackerpraktikum talk. Today I would like to introduce to you Alexey. He's coming from St. Petersburg and he's going to talk about Lotus Domino, something that is quite around but nobody has really a lot of motivation to test it, although it's completely broken, and he did, so welcome.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Alexey Sintsov. I'm from Rusland, from St. Petersburg, and maybe my English not perfect, I know it, but sorry. And my today's talk will be about few bugs in Lotus Domino service controller. It's console for administrators for Lotus. And all of these bugs and exploits was found during simple penetration test. So it's the story how we create private exploit during penetration test, and finally we found zero-day during penetration test, and well-known software in Lotus. It's not usual thing, so that's why I want to tell about it. But before we could start, a few words about me. So I have work. I'm working in European scan company. My boss pay me money for penetration tests, for an example, and I'm happy. It's fun, it's cool, because I can hack and get money from that. In Russia, it's not it's not too easy to find this kind of job, so I'm glad that I can do it legally. But also I'm trying to do some research, some fun, some bugs, try to find at our laboratory called DSecurG. It's called Digital Security Research Group. It's very pompous name, but okay. I'm trying to get fun because it's very interesting for me. And also we have, not my company, just in Russia, we have very popular IT magazine, offline magazine, called Hacker. It's Russian spelling of this word. And in this offline magazine, you can read some offensive or defensive things in IT security field. It's very, very interesting. One more thing that I want to tell about myself, that last year, I and my friends, we created first DevCon group in our country. So you see our number. It's very interesting experience for me because we have not any legal community where IT security guys and maybe just black hat or white hats can communicate with each other, because it's very not so easy, and there we can communicate. Commonly white hats, black hats scare such kind of things. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about my animation. Forgot about it. Today talks will be about penetration tests, so it's about my job, not about other things. So let's talk about my company. It's called, as I said, ERP Scan, and the special interest is business application security and business system security. Like ERP, of course, SIP, it's our favorite target because it's the most popular target. And of course, Lotus is also business application, business system, and because I'm talking about Lotus, we have our own product called ERP Scan, the same name. It's a network security scanner for SIP. it's cool. We have some tools, some exploits for SIP and other things. And of course, we're providing consulting service to our customers. Okay, before we could start about Lotus, I need to tell about penetration test in general, because it's important in this talk. Penetration test includes many subtasks and many challenges. It's a really interesting job. On this slide, you can see some of these subtasks. There are listed not all, but it doesn't matter, because I want to talk just about finding vulnerabilities, validation, and its exploitation. It's the most important thing for me. It's more interesting things, and so we will talk about just these subtasks. And if we want to talk about finding vulnerabilities, let's take a look into methods that we can use to find vulnerabilities. Again, they are listed not all possible methods, but they are common and they are really works. So it's a classic methods. And of course, they really works, but the question is, are all these methods possible during penetration test? If we're talking about well-known software like Lotus or other software like Apache, VMware, Citrix, can penetration test use all these methods, or for some reason not? And before we can get answer to this question, we need to understand environment of penetration test. The main task, of course, is show to customer big elements of his infrastructure, how it can be hacked, why it can be hacked, and what hacker can get from this system, and finally, what customer can do with that. It's very not so simple to do all of this stuff, because we have very big scope, we have many targets, and these targets and scope can be different by type, by operation system, by used application, by software, by configuration. And of course, there is a very difficult task for every penetration tester. It's manage his time, what he can do and what is out of scope, out of overhead for him. Yeah, it's some kind of cheating maybe, but in real world, everyone understands how things works. For example, customer not paying me for finding 0 days in Apache because he more interested in his custom application, not in popular and well-known software. So that's why most of those methods will not work in penetration test if we're talking about well-known software. For an example, if we're talking about Lotus, what's the first is source code review. We work in black box, and also we are not IBM, so we have not source codes. This not work for us. Okay, it's easy. But what about reverse engineering? It's really cool, but it's need too much time for researcher or penetration tester to do this with big application like SIP. Sorry. Like Lotus, because customer do not pay us for finding 0 day in Lotus and its services. So in most cases, reverse engineering will be excluded from these methods. Fuzzing, yes, sometimes fuzzing works, but again, if we're talking about, for example, web application for Lotus that written by customer, we can fuzz it, and we must do that. But if we're talking about old and well-known software, is this a big chance that penetration tester just excluded, because he need to not waste his time on something that maybe do not give some results. It's real world. Maybe it's not right, and of course it's some kind of overkill for penetration tester, so it's a real situation. And what we have finally, So this is a big process, and if we're talking about well-known software, it's important. Then a penetration tester just do the search into CVE databases or other public resources, and if no vulnerabilities will be found, just do not do nothing. Do not do something else like reversing or fuzzing, because he have many other targets, many other software, and there are maybe custom application, and he need to pay more attention to custom applications than to old good known well-known software, because it's because he trusts to the vendor and trusts to all researchers who hack this software before him. And if we're talking about latest version of this software, so why I need to hack it? It's very hard and take much time from me. So it's sad, but it's true. It's a business finally. We have not much time and maybe not much money for that. Because, for example, if you want to find vulnerability in Google Chrome and in your customer applications do not describe the situation when you must find zero days in Google Chrome, or if there are no lines about this work, so you must do not do that. So it's some kind of paperwork maybe between customer and penetration tester. But sometimes it's not right, so that's why I want to tell you, because sometimes it's possible to penetration test really do something and get something new and exploit vulnerability or find new vulnerability without any without much time, without wasting time. So it's just because very important step on its work. It's just analyze information, because sometimes a penetration tester can understand what time it needs, what is it possible to create exploit or find vulnerability, and on this step you can do a very good job. The same things, I'm just talking about finding vulnerabilities, the same thing with exploitation. For example, we have vulnerability, but we have not exploit. It's a common situation, and if we have not any public or even private exploits, so it's very often when penetration tests do not create his own exploit, just write into reports that yes, there is some vulnerabilities, but we cannot exploit them. It's very often, and sometimes it's not right. So, because finally, penetration tester is a security researcher. Maybe security researcher is not a penetration tester, but penetration tester is always security researcher. That's what I want to tell you. Okay, enough about common words. Let's go to the Lotus. Okay, there will be real story, because all these bugs, as I said before, we found during penetration tests. So we have it was internal penetration test, and we have found several installation of Lotus Domino, and of course we want to hack it. And okay, let's talk about it. We can determine version of Lotus, of course, and in first case we will be talking about version 8.5.2 with fixpack 2. It was not latest version on moment of penetration test, so of course there was some vulnerabilities, and we can find all these vulnerabilities from CVE database and try to exploit them. So let's try to do that. Okay. For example, the first step for me, for example, will be go to the website exploitdb.com and try to find some real exploits for this version of Lotus. Okay, let's do that. What's first? Very bad exploit because it's denial of service. We work with customer. We work in production system. We very scary of this situation when customer services will be crashed. So no denial of service exploits. We don't need them. It's very dangerous. So it's useless. The second exploit is client side. It's it's useless in this situation because we have some services, not clients, employers with Lotus Domino client. So this exploit is useless. And the third exploit, let's see on them, again, useless because it's out of date. Because the vulnerabilities that use it in this exploit already fix it in our version of Lotus Domino. It's no public exploits. Okay, let's move next and see all dangerous vulnerabilities by CVE number and try to understand is there something interesting. The first pack of bugs, it's memory corruption vulnerability. It's like buffer overflow, pointer dereference, and something like that. It's binary vulnerabilities and without any exploits in public. It's very sad for me as penetration tester, but even if I have exploits for this vulnerability, maybe I will not use them because it's dangerous against if something goes wrong and exploit give fail, it's big chance that client service will be crashed and client just kill me in Russia. So I don't like these exploits except those that tested on this version of platform. If I'm 100% have sure about that this exploit doesn't crash service, maybe I run it, but maybe not. Okay, it's the most part of vulnerabilities is binary, but last one is not binary. It's some authentication bypass, but not exploit in public. And if I'm not wrong, I need to buy immunity debugger or immunity canvas to exploit this vulnerability, but I do not remember. Maybe I'm wrong here. So what to do for penetration tester in this situation? What I can do? Nothing, because I just understand that I cannot do anything, but I can just create report and write in this report that, yeah, you have vulnerabilities, we can't exploit it for some reason, and you need to update your version of Lotus. It's a solution. And finally, customer, very often customer do not need real penetration. He pay us money for penetration, but what he really need is solution, not penetration in most cases. So we give him a solution patch, install patch. So okay, it will work, and in most cases it works. But for me, it's not fun. Why? Because so many vulnerabilities, and I can't exploit them. It's very sad for me. And the second reason, if we can exploit this server, maybe we can get from this server something interesting. For example, Windows hashes or something really valuable for me as penetration tester. But we hack it just in theory and not in practice. So it's very bad. Of course, there is reasons why we can't hack this server, but who cares? Okay, let's back to the list.
Ask one question.
Of course.
If you have this information about the Lotus node server and the version you have there, can't you use another server and set it up and try to penetrate it? So you can show your customer we don't do it at your server, but our server we can hack and find the Windows hashes, for example.
Yeah. If in report that you sell to the customer, you need to describe all situation what can or potentially can happen or really happens. It's two different, and this is important because that's why you do not a security scanner, you a penetration tester, because you need to describe real situation and potentially what can happen. So if we talk about Windows server, for example, yes, we describe what can happen if we can hack the server, or if we hack the server, what are our next steps. It's all must be in report. Okay, let's go back to challenges and what really must do a penetration tester. Okay, he found vulnerabilities, we found vulnerabilities. What our next step? We try to analyze them, but not just as I do in previous demonstration. We need to dig deeper into description and try to understand, can we create exploit, or is it easy to real hacker to create exploit? What is the real situation? Not just copy paste from CV, it's not right. So there's two different ways. The first way, yeah, we can do anything because it's, for example, memory corruption, and we need 5 days just for develop exploit, and after that it's dangerous to run this exploit. So it's just really not our case. We're not interested in this solution, so this is one of the possible way. The second way, if we can find something interesting that easily to exploit, but for some reason there are no public exploits, we need to do that because that's why customer pay money to us. And if we understand that we have time, we just try to do that, try to research, try to create exploit, and finally to exploit vulnerabilities. That's why things should work. So let's go back to Lotus and try to do that. As I said before, first packs of vulnerabilities, of bugs, is very difficult and dangerous. The most important is that it's dangerous to the service. So that's why it's bad for us. We can use this. We can create exploit. Maybe we can, but we cannot exploit use this as exploit because it's dangerous. But as I said, the last one is not buffer errors. It's not buffer overflow, not memory corruption, not pointer dereference. It's something else. It's authentication bypass, and of course, it's not dangerous for server. In meaning, we cannot create denial of server situation. So why we do not read something about this vulnerability? Okay, let's do that. This vulnerability was found by Patrick Carlson from Sweden. He sell this vulnerability to ZDI, and all information that we have in public is just advisory from ZDI. So we see that CVS score 10, so it's the most dangerous vulnerability in the world. So it's very interesting for us, and let's try to read description, what we can get from there. The first, we can understand, the credit. That vulnerability is Domino server controller. It's port TCP port 2050. So we found this port, we found this service, so it's will work for us. Okay, let's read the description. There is a very interesting vulnerability. The main thing that user can input user and password for authentication, but also he can provide cookie path parameter that tells to Lotus where is file with original login and password. What does it mean? It's alternative way to authenticate, not just by using login and password, just by using login password and some different base file with that hold credentials. And the bug is in this cookie path parameter because it can be UNC path. It means UNC, that means that an attacker can provide remote host. For example, host or evil host with this file. It means that attacker can control both part of authentication. That key, the first login and password that he input into console, and because we can insert UNC path, and we can control this file. We can create this file on our server, input there any login and password, save them, then try to authenticate to Lotus Domino, and describe path to our file by using UNC path, and server use both this file that we control it and login a password from input. And of course, we can bypass authentication in this case. But what's wrong? Not wrong. What's this information not enough to create exploit because we do not know the format of this cookie file. It's this file. We do not know protocol for this TCP port. We need to know that these things before we create exploit. But we already can understand that it is not too hard to understand these things, because I don't know, maybe we can do some reverse engineering, or maybe fuzzing, or maybe something. Or for example, Googling. Maybe this format can be described by Google, and it will be very easy. So okay, let's do that. But sorry, Google tell nothing. This format, format of this protocol and file is unknown to us. But this guy, Patrick Carlson, also writes many modules for Nmap scanner, and we know it. And of course, for Nmap, there are few modules for Lotus. And if you remember all these modules by memory or by Google, you can find that some models doing brute force by using this protocol. What's mean? We can just read source code of this NSE Nmaps models and try to understand how protocol works. So we do that. It's very easy. Nmap already downloaded. And see this model that doing just brute force. We can see that they use SSL, and into this SSL tunnel is plain text comments. Every comment starts with hashtag, and after that goes comment, UI for an example, and then parameters, login and password. So that's how brute force model works. It's very easy protocol. The next step was guessing if there is comments API and UI, maybe there is comment hashtag cookie file. And yes, there was this comment. We can just guess it, but it not help us because it's not enough. There is something more, and we need to do more research to understand how it works. But already, again, we understand that not so hard. We can try, we can spend few hours, 2 or 1, to try to research this thing. It's not too hard. And second thing, that all this protocol describe it in this file in Lotus Domino distribution. It's jar files, mean Java code, and it's very easy to decompile by using any Java decompiler tools, and we can do that very easy. And after that, we can analyze protocol. We try to find vulnerabilities and format files. We can do anything because we have source code, so we can make source code review, even if it's black box. Let's do that. Okay, this is functions that do parsing of command input. We can very easy to understand how it works. There is really cookie file. If this command was found in network stream, you just create initialize variable cookie file name with value from this command. It's very easy. The same, there are many commands like applet, cookie file, white, authentication, and there are some else commands, but it doesn't matter. Okay, let's look into main loop of this program. This function read from user. This function was on the previous slide. There is this read from user function, and this is the main loop. Okay, this is in a loop read input and do some logic. For example, if we found 6 was applet, return 6. So if there is 6, we set applet connection variable as true. For example, if this variable is set as true, that use another function to make authentication. So by default, if there are no applet connection, we use just login, password, and standard database with credentials. If we have applet connection, we use login, password, and cookie value. So we know that we need to use cookie file, applet, and UI commands to make this attack. So let's find the vulnerability in this function. Let's look into it. Okay, and it's very simple. Read file without any filtration, just this variable from user input. Just read into stream, read into string, and after that, okay, yeah, we can use UNC here, of course. And after that, we're doing simple things. Try to parse this file. You can see this parser. Very simple format. Looks like XML, user tag, and the attributes name, username, cookie, and address. After that, we Lotus do try to equal these values with inputted values. So if it's true, flag is true. If true, then user authenticated. Very easy to find these vulnerabilities, and very easy to find what's this file format and what protocol is. Okay, so how looks exploit? Because we have not enough time to write module for Metasploit, so we just try to do it with ncat. Okay, there is vulnerability and there is exploit. Just create this file. It's simple XML with user, cookie, and address. And just use ncat with SSL flag and try to input. For example, UI is authentication. Try to use this login, this password, and of course wrong password. Then we try to use applet and cookie file with where is UNC path to our file, to our host, and try again. We admin, desegregate, and valid user, exit, and comment who am I, system. Very simple. So this is the vulnerability. And one more thing about this exploit. This username must exist in database, not in this cookie file, but in database. So before we can attack, we need to know real existing username. It's very easy because also this service vulnerable by user enumeration attack. I show it later. Okay, cool. It's a private exploit. We created it. It's 1 hour of work and give us many results because we get system privileges on Windows machine. It means we can pawn all things in network, because if we're talking about Active Directory, so there is many domain accounts with high privileges. We can use things like incognito and do impersonate and get whole domain network. It's very cool. Okay, few words about mitigations that administrator can do. The first, in special file, an XML file on server side, administrator must set privileges for each user. For example, we use for command execution this symbol, and symbol means that next data will be executed as system command. And if this user will have not privileges for system execute, this thing will not work. Just there will be the string that you have not enough of privileges. So it's important to set right privileges for administrators. But we can execute a commands by another way, by use dangerous function like load. For example, this way we can't use. We can use this way. We can use load and as a parameter use cmd.exe with any command. It will work, but without output. We will not see any output. So it's better, it's by default. And two mitigations. First, set privileges, remove privileges of system execute, then this symbol will not work. And the second, set service password for dangerous function like load or tell. It's Lotus functions. And if administrator sets service password, before an attacker can use this command, he needs to input extra password that can be bypassed. So it can save. And one does not exclude another. So it's two mitigations. But if we talk about Windows networks, of course we can use some things like assembly relay. It's old school things and still not patched if we're talking about this environment. It's very easy. We do not create any cookie file. We do not need them. So we just provide UNC path to our host, and there we run, for example, SMB module, Metasploit module SMB relay that make man-in-the-middle attack and play with challenge response of anti-element notifications. For example, we connect to this IP address, yes, to second IP address, and this IP address goes by SMB to our hosts with SMB relay module. This host makes redirect to third host that have also the same domain account with local admin privileges and classical SMB relay stuff. And finally, we got shell on the third host with system privileges again. So even mitigations was implemented. There is another way to pawn this system. Okay, it's cool, but let's talk about second case when we have deal with 8.5.3 version. It was the latest version, and this vulnerability was fixed. Let's look into the fix. The first fix was very simple. Just concatenate before cookie file parameter dot symbol. It means if we input something like this, on the output we will get something like this, with dot before all string. It means UNC doesn't work here. The problem was patched. Cool. The second fix was adding authentication of client. So we need valid client certificate for SSL connection. It means we cannot use NCAT anymore without case. Looks like there are no more problem. And if we have this version in our penetration test, you can see that Nmap tell us that unknown. He cannot get banner because Nmap has not valid SSL certificate. So just green line in report because it's latest version and nothing else we can do. Or we can do something else, because if you remember this part of code, maybe you found something interesting in this code. It's a parser of cookie file. You can see, and our previous thing was that it was XML file. Yes, it looks like XML file, but this is XML parser written in Java by hands. In security is one rule: do not write your own XML parsers. If you write your own XML parsers, you make the vulnerability. And you can see that it's just substrings. So we find index of start of our XML file, end of our XML file, and this is this function doing substring. So we just cut user between quotas, and all data between quotas we move into this variable. So it's handmade XML parser on Java. And really, there is a vulnerability, and it's very easy to find it and to exploit it, because we need just a little modification of our previous exploit and find somewhere how we can inject this pseudo XML file into target machine, into our server. Okay, let's see how it works. So it's an ideal world. It's what IBM want to see. Okay, what's this? Is it XML file? Let's check it by use this parser. Okay, find start, end indexes, and copy this into one string. Then find name and quarter, and copy this into variable. So IBM thinks that it is valid XML file. For us, it means that we can inject this code into any text or even not text files and try to make attack. So it's XML tag injection attack. Okay, how we can do that? And it's very often then you can see something like that. It's real situation. It's some HTTP API of Microsoft and use HTTP protocol. And of course, it's because we talk about Microsoft, it's Internet Information Server. And of course, it handles logs files. So of course, we can inject this trash into this log file and then try to use this vulnerability again. This is example. We just make get request and we have this string into log files. But one problem that white space encoded, real encoded. So it will not work for us. Or we can do two get requested, and we have user space byte and header of response, a code of response, and the second request the other stuff. And this will be good XML file for IBM. Okay, it's very easy to exploit, but we need to have valid SSL certificate for connection. Is this, if you remember, the second fix? How we can do that? If you remember that all code handles into this jar file, you can find this file with all case that we need. So we can just manually cut case from this file and use these certificates for our connection. But we have not much time to write our own Metasploit exploits. It's too hard for us and we are lazy. So we can just use this jar file as exploit without anything. So this is all exploit. We just use this applet with this code and give params as params for this applet. And that's all. We don't need to write any lines of code. Just use traversal directory. Yes, there will be dot symbol before the string, but for traversal directory, it's good. So, okay, we have TCP port. We have cookie value, password in this meaning. So it's password. We have password, login, cookie file, but what we have not that host name. We cannot set target host name with IP address, because if we use this applet from our local host, that means that this applet try to connect to this IP address to localhost. So it's not good, but we can use local port redirection from local port 2050 to remote port, and exploit will work. So it's very easy to exploit, maybe, but I need to show because too many words and not much show. Okay. First of all, 1 second. Okay. 1 second. Okay, so I see. It's a simple port forwarding. So I just create new rule from local 2050 to remote. Remote. Okay. I need to run my virtual machine with Lotus Domino controller. It takes some time. Okay, and there is an exploit. Okay, this is remote host with redirection, so it's our host. There will be path to Internet Information Server logs. We know this format. So today is something like that. 12/4/25. So I just show how it looks like. Yeah. This is log file, it's empty. So now we're trying to inject some stuff. Oops. Okay. Open. So it's we use the simple GET request 404 because of course this is a error. The second request will be his name, login, password, and additional parameter address. It's needed. And oh, we forgot one thing. Close tag. Okay. Then we will wait some time because it's buffering. Okay, for example, there are just user. If we run our exploit, so it's wrong password before because we're not ready yet. We need to wait when log files will be updated. Okay. User, name, cookie, and close tag. Looks like okay. Let's try again exploit. Hop, we have console, and here we can input any command like dir, who am I? Yeah, it means system on Russian. Yes, it's still not patched yet, and I don't know why, because I tell them it's about this bug in November and even did not get any answer. But before IBM give good answers to me about vulnerabilities. So it's real situation. Of course, we're talking about internal penetration tests, but what about internet? Is it possible to exploit from internet? And the answer will be yes. Of course, this port 2050 is only for administrators, not for anyone. So I don't know why the US government just used this TCP port into internet. So every Chinese hacker can try to hack it. It's not so easy, not so hard. And of course, to find this kind of ports, it's not so easy in internet because, for example, I use Showdown HQ service, try to find Lotus Domino web servers, and then I'm just use Nmap and scan subnet of this for this IP address for 2050 ports. And it's an interesting example of government fail, but more interesting is IBM fail. Next slides. You can see the same scan for some IBM research network. I don't know what they do there. And they have opened this port. And also because we have see the banner, it means they use old version of Lotus Domino. So IBM can't patch their own service. And this is example how we can brute force valid login name. So it's user enumeration. So admin the one message, admin another message, the ADM another message. But if we use administrator, wrong password. So it means this user really exists, and we can try and inject logs by using SSH, send mail, and maybe other ports, and just use not a full port scan. So very interesting situation. So it's not only IBM and government, there are some few, yep.
Usually the Domino console gets logged too in the data directory from Domino.
Yes, they have log file, but it's not, for my experiments, it will not work because my log file flash after every connection.
Okay.
So it's just become empty after any actions. But maybe I was too lazy, so I'm just look into it and, oh, it's not enough for me. But, okay. And if we're talking about first bug that was found by Patrick Carlson, it works only on Windows platforms because UNC path can be used only in Windows platform. This vulnerability can be used against Unix and Linux platform because it's traversal directory works everywhere. So what we can say after all of this? Yeah, penetration test still state of art. We can get fun from this work, just not doing something by paper, by items. We can do something by ourselves, by myself, by yourself. We can do something new, something interesting that will be interesting, special for you. And the most important is that it really can give you a result, very good result. For example, we got 0 day, and we got from those examples we pounded whole Windows network. It's very good. So penetration tester is security researcher in full meaning of this word, in ideal world, of course. Some mitigations, of course. It's very simple by use network firewalls. We can use 0 days, we can use new attacks, but the most easiest decision is just by using right rules on your filter, on your firewall, because it's just service for Lotus administrators, not for everyone. And of course, if we use both of privilege, both of mitigations, we can execute a system commands. So I don't know what to say more. If you have questions, you can do that.